Hello, Lizzie here, and today we're going to be making Asher, and this is the pattern for Asher. It's actually a double pouched pencil case, or you can put your tools in there or your makeup, you know, the usual thing, where we can make lots of different things out of the same pattern or use it in different ways. So this is Asher, and this is part of the April patterns, and actually it's birthday month here at the gold group. So so I'm wearing gold and we're celebrating all month as it's our 2-year anniversary. So this is Asher, and it's a really super useful double pouch bag, and it actually is stitched together in the middle, so you can see it's joined there. And of course you've got a little Velcro loop here, so you can kind of secure everything if you want to, make it nice and neat, nice design feature. And that's done with Velcro or double hook and loop. Yeah, I can never remember that. It's got zips both sides, and the sliders are both on the same size. I'm going to talk about that as we go along. And obviously it's just the right size for your pencils, pens. You can put your tools in there as well. So it's a really useful, you can see, double pouch. So we're going to make the second version of this today. I'm actually going to use the same fabric. I liked it so much, I decided to use it again. It's so pretty, isn't it? Now with Asher, she's only got one layer of medium weight stabilizer. Okay, so it's an iron-on stabilizer, medium weight, not a lightweight, not a heavyweight, a medium weight. There's no wadding in this whatsoever. It's just got that one single layer, and that's all it needs. Otherwise it could be quite tricky to actually turn through and get the points of the corners really nice, and there would be too much going on because it's quite a small project. So let's put Asher to one side for the moment and get going. So the first thing you need to do is, we've got some little tabs here, some zipper tabs. So you need, I'm just going to make one up. Okay, obviously you need to do this twice, but I'm just going to show you once. Otherwise, you know, it's the same thing over and over again. So I've got my two little tabs here for either end of the zip, because if you have a look at the one I made, in fact, let's go look at the one that I've got pre-made. You can see that both ends have a zipper tab, which is really nice. It makes sure that your bag or your pouches open out nicely at the corners where the end of the zips are. So take your little tab here, and you're going to fold the shortest ends together. So you want a little crease on that fold, if you like. So I'm going to use my iron. And this is purely for visual aid, because we're going to actually stitch across that. I'll just turn that iron down a wee bit. So that's given me my visual aid. You can see if I hold it to the side here, you can see how beautifully that's pressed. And I'm just going to use that crease line to stitch my zip. Okay. So if we stay on that side view, you'll be able to see what I do. It's not difficult. This is not difficult. So I've got my, let's move my phone out of the way. I've got my zip here ready, and all I'm going to do is place the right side of my tab over one end. Now my zip is cut too long, and that's because it means I can trim it back. So I've got my right side of my fabric on top of my front of my zip. There's my slider, so you know it's the front. And all I'm going to do is fold that back, and I'm going to stitch right across here. And you'll see straight away that the tab is much wider than the zip. That's fine, because we can trim it back. So stitch length on medium. Be careful when you go over the zip teeth as normal. Be respectful of your machine. And there we are, we've stitched across there, and all that we're going to do now is just to fold that back. We've already creased it with the iron, so it remembers where it's got to go, so you can see what that looks like. And I'll just trim my little ends away there. So hopefully we haven't got too many thread trimmings to do. So there's the first one done. Now we need to obviously do a second one. So if I get the pieces in, got a lot of pieces going on here. So this is the piece I'm going to stitch together for you now. So this is what it looks like. This is the entire length of it. Now I know my zip is going to go from there to there. Okay, it's going to go raw edges here, so they're all parallel. So I know that my other piece needs to end about there. And the reason why I've got my slider there is because it keeps it out of the way for the moment. So I can cut if I want to, I can measure, and I can get the exact dimensions I need. So if I put the tab over the top, you can see where I'm going to cut this away in a minute, but that's where I'm going to stitch. So I'm going to do myself a little mark, because what happens is when I move that slider, this end here will open up, and I always want to make sure that I've got everything lined up. So if we take that away, move the slider, you can see straight away that the zipper's opened up, but I know I've got my little marks there, so all I need to do is put my raw edge back down there. I'm just going to overlap it slightly, and then when I do come to stitch across that fold, so I'm going to open that up, and as I stitch across, I'm going to bring my zip teeth together, keep that lined up on the marks that I made, and I'm going to stitch across here, and then I can trim my zip back, which will look lovely and neat. So all I did was to lay that on there, mark it with my pen. You can just see the little marks there, so I know exactly where the raw edge of that tab should go. Makes it super easy. And of course, if you want to, you could pop a little, well, we could use clips, or I'll use a pin for the moment as I just grabbed it. So I can just pop a pin there and hold it in place, and you can see straight away that's made it easy for me. So I'm going to pop that under the machine as well. I'm going to try and keep the teeth of my zipper tape together. So I'm going to hold it, and like I said before, be careful of your machine going over the teeth of your zip. There we are. So there's our second tab in place, and you'll see it fits absolutely perfectly. And if I bring that right up, it looks really neat. What I'm going to do now is just trim that back, because I don't need all that zip there. So I'm going to trim it back 1/4 inch, I would say, if you want a measurement, about 1/4 inch, and that takes a lot of the bulk away from where I'm going to stitch. So if we do the same on this end as well, just pull the tab back and cut it right down to 1/4 inch. And then what you can do, if you like, you can trim that up, so you can parallel trim it. So in other words, I wouldn't bother with a ruler and a rotary cutter. I would just get your scissors and just trim it, and again just trim it, and try and keep that as straight as you can. Do the same on the other side, trim and trim. There we go. So that's neatened it all up, and it means my zipper tabs now are the same width as the zip, and when I pop that down, you can see it fits absolutely perfectly. Made everything so much easier. So what we're going to do now is to stitch the main body parts together. We're going to stitch the lining at the same time. Now sometimes I do this separately, and sometimes I do one at a time, and sometimes I do them together. Today we'll do them together. So obviously we've got the zip slider there, so we want to be careful of that, and we can just move it out of the way, just so with the first few stitches we don't get that slider involved with our stitching, if you like. And we're just going to put right sides together onto the right side of our zipper tape, and the first row stitching, the raw edges are going to meet up here, so the raw edge is going to meet up with that outside edge of the zip. So if I flip it over, there we go, you can see immediately I've covered up my zip. So if I flip it that way, you can see we've got right sides together. So the right side of my zip is facing the right side of my main fabric, and again I'm going to put the right side of my lining, you can see I've used white on white, and I'm going to put that down like that. And now we've made a zip sandwich, and all we need to do is stitch from top to bottom and then repeat it for the other side. So I'll change my foot for a zipper foot, and it's much easier to use a zipper foot. You mustn't be worried about using a zipper foot. It's just it actually is a tool that will aid you rather than hinder you. So let's just get that screwed on. So now I'm all set up with my zipper foot, and now I can stitch from top to bottom. Now It really doesn't make a huge difference which way you stitch this on, but I much prefer to have it where I can see the zip teeth underneath, and my zipper foot, it kind of sits nicely against those zipper teeth. It just makes everything super easy. So we'll just line those up again, make a zip sandwich and pop it under the machine. And we're doing, I suppose it's about 1/4 inch. Sometimes it's dependent on the width of your zipper tape and things like that. But you're stitching as close as you can get to the zipper teeth. So just layering those pieces up. We'll get so far, like now. I'm just going to raise my needle a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to raise my foot. And then I'm just going to slide this slider out of the way. Now I don't have to think about it anymore. So, right the way down to the bottom. There we go. So now we've put our lining in and we've put our outer fabric on as well. It looks super neat, doesn't it? And all we need to do now is just top stitch that down. So the easiest way to do that, and we want the smallest of top stitches. So what I want you to do is to get the fabrics to meet up at the bottom there. So there's your lining fabric here, there's your outer fabric here. And what I want you to do, and use pins or clips, keep the top of the pin out of the way of your fingers, because by golly they can be quite dangerous. So bring those edges together and pin them, and that now keeps your lining well out of the way. And you should, when you top stitch, catch your lining absolutely beautifully. And by all means give this a press at this time. You know, it's always handy to press things as you go. And what I'll do is I'll just use my roller. If you've got one of these, they're such a great addition to your stash, and just roll that out of the way. So we're about, well, between the 16th and an 18th, sorry, a 16th and an 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. And it will make a really nice, neat finish. And even when we come up to the zipper slider there, because we're a little bit further away from the teeth, you can just get by without any problems. Now, because we pinned all our layers together, I haven't had to worry about my lining at all. It's absolutely stayed put. And you can see what a beautiful, neat job that's made of stitching the lining and the outer fabric together. So you'll go ahead and you'll do 2 more of these. So I beg your pardon, you'll do 1 more this side and then you'll do another one. So you've got 2 pairs. And that's what you want to end up with. So let me just pop these to one side. We don't need those anymore. But now what I've got is I've got 2 pieces made up. So there's one and there's another. Okay, can you see those? Okay, you can see where the zip sliders are, because this is the crucial bit, because we want to make sure that our zip sliders are both at the same end. You don't want one zip slider one end and a zip slider the other. Okay, doesn't make sense. So have the zip sliders going, it doesn't matter whether it's left to right or right to left, but try and get those sliders. And there's a picture in the pattern that actually shows you that you need to line this up. Okay, so on my desk I will have my 2 half-made pouches ready. So you can see that I've got my sliders here and here. Okay, so I know that they're at the right end. Now on this top one I need to put my fold over tab. Okay, well, this is my little bit of Velcro. Let's pop that there. Let's hope I don't lose it. And what I've done is I've made up the tab. It's literally right sides together. One piece has got stabiliser on, that's all. Before I stitched it together, I've actually applied my little piece of Velcro, and it does actually tell you where to place it. But let common sense prevail. It's about, mine's a bit wonky, but it's about 1/2 inch in on all three sides there, and that'll be fine. And I've top stitched as well. You can see if I bring it in, I've top stitched that so it's really nice and neat. So what we need to do is to attach this to the top bag here. Okay, let's see again. Let's do a reminder. Zip slider, zip slider. Okay, that's quite important. And then we've got our tab, and that tab will actually fit on a piece of Velcro here. Okay, this is why I've got this lined up, so we can get it absolutely perfect. So we need to find the centre, and as normal, the easiest thing to do is to fold this in half. We don't need to worry about the lining. In fact, what I would do, take that lining and pin it out of the way. Okay, we only want to stitch on this outer piece. Okay, so if I turn it, you can see all I've done is folded that lining back, pinned it just to get it out of the way. So fold your piece in half and find the centre. Just do a little clip. Ooh, I went straight in my coffee cup. So there we are, you've got a little clip there to tell you where the centre is. And I think you can either find the centre of that, or you can just it's only a small bit. I'm sure you can get it in the centre. So if we pop that on there, I'm going to put a clip there just to hold it. There we go. Let's pop it back so we can see what that looks like. So that is our little tab in place there, which is now absolutely perfect. We also need to consider the Velcro going on down here. And again, best thing to do, because we don't want to stitch the lining, so we're going to flip the lining out of the way and we're going to pin it just like we did before. There we go. I've pinned it on the back there, so it's out of the way. There's my two pieces of lining there. And we're going to put the Velcro on here, okay? And now in the pattern, it does actually tell you where to actually place the Velcro. I'm doing a little dot there of where that is, okay? It's just there. You can just about see it, little dot. And we're going to put our Velcro right over the top of that little dot, and we're going to stitch that on. But what we can do is to secure it is just get another pin and just pin it in place. And Velcro is quite a tricky substance, if you like. It's thick, it's not very easy to work with, so you need a really sharp pin to actually secure it. Okay, so we're ready to stitch that, and we're ready to stitch that. Now, the first thing you need to do with this is you need to measure up 3 inches from this raw edge. So let's just pop this one to one side. We'll deal with that in a second. So with this one, that's how it's going to look to you. We need to measure down 3 inches from the top. Okay, again, bring your ruler in. 1, 2, 3. So I'm just going to make a little mark there. I'm using a heat erasable pen. And a little mark there. Let me show you. Can you see? There's a little mark and there's a little mark. You can draw a line if you want. In fact, let me draw a line and you'll see it more clearly. So, there we go. Thank goodness there's a heat erasable pen. So there we are. Do you see? What we're going to do is we're going to stitch from this raw edge at the top down to that line, across and back up. Now you could stitch right on the very edge, across, and the very edge and up, or you can follow the lines that you've already made with the top stitching, which is what I'd prefer to do. So I'm going to pop that under the machine and we'll stitch that now. I've still got my zipper foot on, I must change it. Actually, this zipper foot is really quite nice. I don't mind using it for regular stitching, but of course it doesn't have the 1/4 inch mark, which I quite like, so I will change it. Straight across, and I'm stitching on the lines that I've already top stitched, so I don't know if you can see. Let me take my clip out now, and I'm just coming down that line there. This is the edge here, but I'm 1/4 inch in, so it will just come down. No need to back stitch because that's right on the edge, but we will just neaten off our threads. So that's the tab attached now, and it's attached down to that blue line. And while the iron is nice and warm next to me, I'll just use that to get rid of the blue lines so it looks nice and neat. And there you are, that's what it looks like. Good. So now what we want to do is to stitch the Velcro. So it's a hook and loop, whatever you want to call it, fluffy side and hook side. So we're going to go all the way around. Now this will take a little bit of pressure. In other words, when you pull the tab, it's only a little piece, but it still needs to be strongly stitched. So little stitches will be good. And if you want to, you could back stitch along here or go over the whole thing twice, just to make it really strong. In fact, let's just change that foot while I remember. Like I say, it's not like a regular zipper foot, it's quite nice. Makes a change. Oh dear, little things. Right, so there's my regular foot installed. At least it gives me a fighting chance of a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'm going to take the pin out, because we don't stitch over pins, do we? No. Back stitch to start. I'm going to take my stitch length down. I need this to be nice and strong. So just going over my Velcro there, all the way round. And just to make it super strong, I'm just going to go up there a few stitches. and then just trim anything away. I think I don't think that's too bad. We've got a little bit of an end there. So there is our little square of hook and loop in place. Okay, so let's put it back down so we know exactly what we're doing. This time we can take the pins out and bring the lining back over. There we go. Right, there we go. So now we've got them back in position again. Like I said to you before, it's really important that we get, because these are the two, forget about that one, but this one and this one are the two that are going to be stitched together, okay, and that's what we're going to do next. So when we look at the instructions, this is the part that we're going to draw on our pattern. You can see that in the picture there. So what we're going to do is we're going to place the two centre outside pieces right sides together, pin to hold in place, draw a line from the centre, 2 1/4 inches from the bottom raw edge and 2 3/4 inches from the sides. Okay, if you can't remember that, don't worry, it's in the pattern. So we need to take this piece and we need to take this piece. Let's do it so you can see this piece and this piece, right sides together. So flip that over onto the top. Okay, and this time we don't want this lining in the way. Okay, that lining can be pinned back. Actually, you can pin that back. So we've just got those two pieces now right sides together. Okay, and if we look at it, I want you to visualize how that's got to look. So if yours doesn't look like that, start again. So let's just get all that out of the way. And like I said, you can pin that or get some quilting clips on there, just so everything keeps out of the way. There we go. So all I've got are the two outer pieces, okay? And by all means, pop a pin in them so they're absolutely, totally on top of each other, absolutely parallel. So we need to draw a line now onto our fabric because we're going to stitch around it. We're going to do like a letterbox. So it's 2 1/4 inches from the bottom raw edge. So if I get my ruler and I'm going to just mark a little line there. I know that that little line is 2 1/4 inches up from that base there. And then it says 2 3/4 inches from these sides. So if I do one, we should be okay. So 2 3/4, there's one, and 2 3/4, there's two. Now that's not to say that any of that is lined up. So if I show you, so there's my 2 3/4 mark. Whoops. There's my other 2 3/4 mark from there to there, and that's my 2 1/4. So I know that if I draw a line along there, it'll be in the perfect place, and that's my stop and start lines. Okay, so I'm just going to draw a line right across that. And if you want to measure twice, in other words, to get that 2 1/4 in exactly the right place, then do that. But there is the line. Now ignore the fact that I've put little marks on there, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually stitch all around that letterbox. Okay, so all we're doing is joining those two pieces of fabric together. Okay, so I'll do it and then I'll show you. So let's just bring the machine in, and I'm doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So there we go. In fact, I'm going to do it. Yes, that'll be fine. I'm just talking to myself here. Oh dear. So 1/4 inch all the way around. I'll show you when I've done it. Just makes it easier. Oh, hi there. Thank you for stopping by. I was going to talk to you about the Gold Club actually, and I'm preparing for our Facebook Live tonight, because every week on Facebook in the Gold Sewing group, we actually do other things like free motion embroidery tonight. So the Gold Online Sewing Group, what is all that about? Well, if you go to my website, lizzycurtis.com, you'll see the sign up tab. Click on that, you get a choice of membership, but what you do get every month is 2 different super patterns, especially for you. And you know what? When they go in the shop the next month, they're $4.99 each. So this is an absolute bargain for £5, about $6.20, something like that. You're getting those 2 full patterns with video tutorials as well. So why don't you join up today and join the online sewing group, which is known as the Gold Sewing Group. I'll see you there. Bye. So you're just going beyond the line that you drew, but I will show you. And come down the other side. I mean, to be honest, this is not totally, utterly crucial that you get this absolutely accurate. You just want to join the 2 pieces of fabric together. But to have something actually structural, you know, definite dimensions, it just helps, doesn't it? I could have said just stitch along there, but then you'd think, well, how long? How much? So if I show you to the side camera now, what that looks like. So hopefully you can see my stitches. I'll try and bring it in so you can see my stitches. You don't need to worry about ironing that away. It'll come off eventually anyway when you come to iron the whole piece. So take your clips out, and now you've got 2 pouches that are joined together. And you think, how on earth? I'm thinking that already. No. But now we need to make it into a pouch, okay? Now this is where you've got to concentrate because we have to tuck one inside the other. So it's a little bit clumsy or cumbersome to do, but if you fold it nice and neatly, it should be fine. So we're going to go onto the side camera for this. So there's my letterbox there, and I can bring my lining down. We can make it nice and neat. There we go. So we've got our 2 pouches now joined at the hip. There we go. But this side obviously isn't, because these are the outside pouches. You can kind of see how it's going to go. But what I want to do is stitch it normally. So I want to stitch the right side. So ignore the fact that we've got that pouch. Ignore it. This is the pouch I want to stitch. So it's right sides together with my 2 outer fabrics. Okay, so if I hold them, so these 2 pieces, ignore this, ignore that. I want to stitch those together as normal. Okay, so I'm going to bring those up here. Okay, let's do the lining first, because I think that will make a little bit more sense to you. So we'll just put some pins in. With lining, sometimes clips are a little bit heavy. So let's just get that. Now don't forget, because we're making a pouch, we need to leave a turning gap, okay? And open up your zips. Phew, I nearly forgot. Open up your zips. Now, a turning gap, make it a decent size, okay? Just give yourself, let's have a look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 inches. You can see my blue lines on my lining. So you want to stop and start here. Start here, stop there, vice versa. But just leave that open. So now we want to stitch, ignore that one, this is the outer one. Ignore it, and I want you to tuck it in, forget about it. Fold it in here, fold it in here. Look, there we are. There's our pouch, nicely folded. Forget it. Forget it's there. Take that lining over, that outer fabric over, and pin it together maybe, or clip it. I don't mind clips on this fabric because it's stabilised. It can take the weight. So look, you can see, you can see the little pouch inside trying to escape. But you just tuck it in there, okay? So it's just a little bit awkward. It's not desperately awkward. It's just, you know, it just wants to escape. Try not to stitch it. So tuck it in. And as you stitch along, you'll be able to feel it and make sure it's moved. So there we are. I hope that's made sense. We're going to do it again in a minute. Okay, and when you come to the zip, make sure that the zip tab is facing out, so it goes towards the line, it goes towards the outer. So if you can see, there's my little zip tab there. Just push that to the outer fabric. Try and stitch it that way and you'll get a neater job. See how you get on with it. It's not crucial. Nothing is crucial. So find your little blue mark. So already all that stress of where you stop and start has been taken away from you because you did a little mark. Take your pins out as you go. Oh, let's up the stitch length. Still on tiny stitch. So 1/4 inch seam allowance is fine for this. And like I say, just watch that where you're going to stitch on the zip. You've only got a fabric tab. There's no zip teeth there. If you remember, we actually cut them away. So let's hope we've got that tucked in nicely. There's quite a few layers there. So we're just coming down the side of the front, the outer, the main pouch, and just make sure that that other little pouch is tucked away. I think once you've made one of these, you'll have that aha moment when you think, oh, actually, that's not as difficult as I thought. I think it's like everything, isn't it? Sometimes when you look at something, it's a little bit daunting. You think, that's way out of my comfort zone. It's not really. You just got to trust the demonstrator. Oh dear. Just get yourself over the zip tab. Take your pins out. There we go. Get those pieces lined up. And then we come back to nearly where we started. Okay, so we've gone all the way round, okay? So it looks just like a regular pouch, except you can see there's something inside. But we've got our turning gap here and we opened up our zips, guys. You can trim your corners if you want to. In fact, I shall on the pouch part, the outer part. Not too near the stitching. There we go. So you just do what you normally do and just turn it through. You think, how is this going to work? I always think that. You think, did I do this right? Let's just give it a push. Now it's quite stiff because you've got that medium weight stabiliser on there. So it's quite stiff. But obviously, once you've got it through, it'll need a press. Be fine. So there we are. Push your lining in. Don't forget to stitch your turning gap, guys. I know I'm a bit naughty with things like that. So you just need to get your pouch looking like a pouch. Just get our turning tool. And you've got your gap still if you haven't stitched your gap closed, so you can use that and get your turning tool in there and try and get the ends up and looking glamorous and gorgeous. And of course you could make this bigger, you could make it smaller, you could add more pockets to it. Think about doing 3. Gosh, you'd have to think about that, wouldn't you? But you could. You just have to have a little think about how it's going to work. So there's our square end. Can you see how beautiful? I don't know if you can see how beautiful that looks. Tuck that lining in. We've top stitched it, so it's going to sit nicely inside. But of course we need to stitch that turning gap, which of course I'll do at some time. So there's our first pouch done. So if you ignore the fact we've got another pouch on the other side of it, it's joined, look. And you think, what a mess, what a mess. How is that going to work? It does, it's like magic. So there's our first pouch done. It's beautiful, okay? We can zip it up. Ready for our pencils and our pens. We need to do the other side. Come on, we need to do the other side. So again, right sides together. So it's the right sides of your outer pieces that are left that are going to go together, okay? So let's see. I want to make sure you can see this. Let's do it on the side camera. Right. There's our pouch that we've just made. There we go. Needs a press, but there it is. And again, what you need to do is you need to fold it up. And don't be too, if you haven't pressed it, it doesn't matter yet, does it? Because you can press it in a minute. So fold it up so it's out of the way, okay? And now all you've got is just a regular pouch sitting there. So you're doing right sides together, just as you normally would. So just bring that over. Don't forget to open your zip. Let's get it lined up. Let's get a pin in there quick before it wriggles, because it's like a spring loaded action underneath there. That pouch wants to leap. So you can see I've got right sides together of my outer. I've got my lining here and it automatically wants to be right sides together. So we just pull it over a bit, pin it, use clips if you want to. I'm not a pin fan, but sometimes pins are the best, okay, for this type of thing. We can put another pin in here if you like, just to keep it nice and tidy. There we go, it's not too bad. So there's all our little layers, but looks like a little bit of a puff pastry going on. Don't forget your turning gap. So again, you could do your blue marks, I'm guessing, so maybe 4.5 inches across there. Okay, now I'll measure it if you like. Let's have a look. Oh, yeah, 4.5. I was going to say 5, but that's 4.5. So that's where we start, all the way around. That's where we finish. When you come to this part here, again, you're pushing that, see where the tab is there? You're pushing that in. Okay, it's not crucial, it just helps it all stay neat. But it's best to, as you get to that point, push it out. So, let's get it stitched. Now, this is a sort of project, I'm serious, you can make this in an hour. Okay, the only thing I did prior to this video was to prepare these pouches, just to save a bit of time. But even that, putting the zips in, doesn't take too long. And don't be afraid of zips. I want you to tackle them. If you may well be a seasoned sewer and you're thinking, what is she going on about? But not everybody likes a zip. There must have been a time when I put my first zip in. I can't remember it, so I must have been quite young, probably about 5. But I suppose perhaps because I was young, I wasn't daunted by it. I hadn't seen anybody else's remarks saying, oh, zips are the work of the, yeah. So, 1/4 inch seam allowance, thereabouts. I think I've wriggled off a bit. It's because I talk too much. And like I said before, when you get to that zip, just get that zip tab to go into the outer fabric, which I nearly didn't do. Let's do that properly. It should be fine. So just be respectful when you go over the zip as well. Please always remember, because some machines can handle things like zip teeth and are better than others. I mean, this machine is sort of semi-industrial, so kind of like, yeah, give me something that's difficult. It's quite a treat. Okay, so there we are. So there's our second part stitched. You can see where I drew. So I'm glad you left the zip open, because we need to turn it through. Oh, I'll just snip my corners. But I'm only bothering with the outer. I don't bother with the lining. So again, just take your time, because you've got a lot of fabric, a lot of stiffener. So just take your time. It's going to need a jolly good iron anyway, or hot steam. And again, just like the other one, it's oh, what have I done there? Oh, I'm thinking, what have I done? Look, I want you to have a look. Rookie error. Where is it? I'm thinking, oh, I've stitched it into the seam. I hadn't. It just found its way onto its... Yep. So... Makes me laugh. Right, yeah, so push your corners out. Don't forget, you've got a turning gap there. So get your push your outer tool, whatever you use. This is a very fancy chopstick. It's cool. It was a present. Thank you, Jackie. And just push your corners out through the turning gap, okay? So if you stitched it, see what you missed out on? So just get your tool in there. There we go. Good. So poke that lining in. And again, obviously we're going to stitch the turning gap. I will, I promise. So, there we are. So, let's move that, because it's sliding all over the place. So I want you to notice my zip sliders are both at the same end. You could put little bags from there, the little bags or tassels or something. Maybe you've got a staff pass, or maybe it's for your kiddie for the pencils and pens, what have you. Maybe they've got like a lunch pass swipey thingy. I think my grandchildren have. You can maybe you could attach it to that so they don't lose it. But there we are. Flip that over. And let's just do it so it does it, and then it encloses the whole thing. Can you see? And there you have a double pouch, and it's attached. There we go. I'll hold it like that. You can see. You can go all the way around. You can see what it looks like. Needs a jolly good press now, but there we are. That is Asher. How easy. Now actually I gave it a 2-star rating because we've got hook and loop, we've got that complication of stitching and turning through. Looks like a magic trick, but watch the video. Just keep watching the video. But also we've got 2 lots of zips in there as well, so I figured it ought to be a 2-star because it's not quite beginner. It's for somebody that's a confident beginner up to anybody else in the whole world. So that is Asha. I hope you enjoy making her. I hope you make loads.